I'm sorry I'm upsetting you, David, but you don't understand what's going on.
I understand, all right. You're one of the undead, and I'm a werewolf.
Yes.
That was a terrible trailer. That was so bad.
I
Oh, God.
I don't mind it because it doesn't actually give anything away,
Yeah.
and it barely shows the werewolf, which
Yeah.
I think is the way it should be.
Yeah.
So
Agreed. Well, I'm Kevin,
I'm Jake.
and this is Movie Matters. Today we're talking about the 1981 film An American Werewolf in London. And it's directed by John Landis. We've done a movie from him before, which was The Blues Brothers. So, mainly known for comedy, John Landis, he makes a horror movie. So, it's now October, and we're in the month of horror. It's spooky season, and so we're starting it off with this movie, which I've never seen before.
Yeah, neither have I. I don't know. It teeters on the edge of horror. There's not really there's a couple parts that are a little jump scary, but it's overall it's not too it doesn't lean too hard into horror, and like there's actually some like pretty great comedic moments in it.
Yeah.
So it's nicely balanced. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which is fun. And like I'd say it's probably leaning more towards the like gruesome kind of horror than like scary.
Agreed. And what's funny is, like I said, this guy, John Landis, is known for comedy. He directed Animal House from '78. And, the preview for this movie in the '80s said, from the director of Animal House. And like a lot of people, because they saw that, thought it would be a comedy. And then apparently people ran out of the theater when they discovered it was a horror movie because they were frightened from it, which is awesome. I love that. I think that's so cool. I like, I don't know, horror movies, some, of this era, they're dated, so they don't scare us as much, obviously, because we're, used to modern horror with CGI and crap like that. And this movie relies heavily on makeup. It won the Oscar for makeup. It was the first movie to do so, which is super cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they literally, so a year prior to this, The Elephant Man, which is on our list to do, that movie was like renowned for its makeup, and there was no Oscar category for this at the time. And because of that movie, and because it like didn't get nominated for anything, they created that category. So this movie was literally the first to win the makeup Oscar, which is super cool.
That's cool. It easily deserves it. Like the effects and makeup in this are pretty phenomenal.
Agreed. Even just from the get-go, like, I mean, obviously it has that comedic vibe in the beginning, but then it quickly turns to horror where they go to this, pub in the middle of nowhere, and then they're like, well, we don't feel welcomed here, we're going to walk out. And then you hear that awesome howl from this so-called, werewolf, or they don't know what it is when they're going out. And then Jack gets attacked, and it's very bloody.
Shredded.
Yeah. It's surprisingly bloody. And it was intense. I was like, holy crap. Like, you feel for the character, you feel for the guy, and like, they did a good job because you already connect with these two characters and you already believe that they're buddies,
Yeah. It's for such an early character death in the movie, you do actually kind of feel a little something for Jack, because there's been some good like bonding moments between the two main characters up like 10 minutes into the movie or whatever he ends up getting killed. But like, yeah, so like they do a good job of that. They paced the beginning very well so that there's it develops their relationship quite a bit, even though it's a fairly short amount of time relative to the overall length of the movie. But it also does set up the fact that they probably were trying to trick people into thinking this was a comedy and scare the shit out of them.
Definitely. And what's cool is John Landis even says, he's gone on record saying that, like, people always mistake the movie for a comedy. And he's like, it's not a comedy. People keep calling it that. It's funny, but it is a horror movie. And, like, you meet these two guys in the beginning and they're in a truckload of sheep. They're sheep. You know, a wolf goes after sheep. It's not subtle. It's very, like, on the nose. And these boys are both dead by the end of the movie. And that's not a happy tale. There's nothing comedic about that, which is hilarious.
Yeah, and like it very much follows the formula of the like werewolf story, like even going back to like the Universal, Wolfman movies, like very much the same kind of formula. Though I'd say number one, the visual effects are unbelievable, especially for the time. In tradition with werewolf movies, because each one seems to really push the boundaries of effects of the time, which I'm sure Landis understood, because he clearly invested in that, and it shows for sure. But also the narrative of like the unsuspecting person gets attacked, they turn into this thing that they don't want to turn into. They have, there's some sort of like sacrifice that needs to be made in order for them, or someone they care about to be happy. And, usually they end up dying.
Yeah. And what's cool is there's, like you said, it had to stand on its own. There was a lot of, werewolf movies in the 80s during this time too. Like The Howling came out right before this. Teen Wolf came out, and like there's a bunch of cool 80s, schlocky werewolf movies, and this one, they wanted the visual effects and makeup to be as real as possible. Case in point, it won the Oscar, and obviously it still holds up to this day. Like it still kicks ass. Yeah.
And it's like the thing that I do appreciate about this is that they could have taken it in a very like B movie direction, but chose to make it a very like it's a fairly high production value film, even though there's not a whole lot of like set design and stuff like that required to tell this story. But like you can tell that like they did put a lot of effort into the movie, again, especially with the effects, which I think really helps sell everything in the movie. Agreed.
Yeah, simple is effective. Yes, all these movies, with big visual effects, these big blockbusters coming out now, they're bloating everything up. Everything's too over bloated and oversaturated. And like, again, that's kind of the point of this podcast. I've said it a million times already. They don't make them like they used to. A lot of these places or a lot of these movies rely on CGI versus these practical effects. Again, like I said, they still hold up. It's like movies need to do this more.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this movie is that they use the effects pretty sparingly. It's only in these like very high impact moments that they really bring out like the wolf transformation and when the wolf is terrorizing Piccadilly Square, I think, or whatever, or Piccadilly Circus. Right. And like that's when they bring out the big high dollar effects, and it like punches up everything that's happening so well. Where like the rest of the movie is just people standing around talking in various locations. Like it's just really, I think, accentuates the big impact moments of the movie extraordinarily well.
Yeah, agreed. Less is more. I mean, that's like Jaws, a 70s movie. Jaws did this to perfection, but I mean, they did that because of budgetary reasons, because the shark was a pain in the ass. But like, all practical effects are a pain in the ass. But I think that is very effective. Is less is more. It makes you it makes your mind and your brain go, what is this thing? You know, what's stalking them in the beginning? What the hell is it? What's it going to look like? And you barely even see it in the beginning.
Well, and it's such a horror trope too, because like typically horror films are dirt cheaply made. So like they do a lot of these like little games where they don't show you anything but imply that a whole bunch is happening. And like, you know, up until the actual transformation scene, you get like half-second glimpses at the wolf. And like it's really beautifully played, and like also
Agreed.
is very much in the vein of a horror movie, you know, up till that point.
Oh yeah, like even Jack haunting, you know, David, and him being all like him progressively being more dead as the movie progresses is awesome and hilarious in and of itself. But like the makeup on Jack, where you can literally see like a piece of flesh on his neck dangling, and I just was like drawn to it. I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
But the movie, there's a lot of intense parts. Like like I said, you know, Jack getting attacked in the beginning, and then when David is having all these kind of fever dreams of him, you know, thinking he's, you know, possessed or turning into a werewolf. Like, for example, where he's in the bed in the forest and it just cuts to his face and it's like yellow contacts. So cool. Yeah. And then the dream sequence where he's like having dinner with his family and these like werewolf Nazis come in and just like destroy everyone and slit his throat. Like, it's crazy.
What I liked again is that, you know, there's a few scenes like that where you get a flash of a wolf man or a creature or whatever, but you never actually see David's version of the wolf until he transforms in its entirety, and that I think is so well done, because they could have blown it like way earlier, you know, in these little sequences and stuff, but they saved it, and it has a huge payoff at the end of the transformation scene, which is just so masterfully done.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, it's so awesome. There's a lot of misconceptions about how it was done, and like it was a suit for almost every shot from what I read, especially the big werewolf. But the transformation scene, it's 2 minutes, and you know, he strips down and he's agonizing and he's turning into the werewolf. It's still considered one of the best in cinematic history, which in terms of practical effects, which is awesome. And much of it was filmed with David, the guy who's transforming, obviously, in a hole underneath the set, and it's like the floor's elevated and his head and arms are sticking out. It took months to plan and shoot this, and like it's so cool, and like the face extending, like the werewolf face extending out of him, that it's just incredible.
Yeah, and like they do it in really good like bite-sized chunks where they like address like different aspects of his body changing. Yeah. In like like not, and they're not, but like what I like, they're very good amounts of time for each transformation component. It's not just like quick flash of like his hand growing. It's like maybe like a 30-second sequence of watching his hand extend like in real time, and like even like the face shot where it's like another like full 30 seconds of his snout like growing out, and like his spine cracking and like forming these like giant, like, you know, like a giant spine throughout his back. Like, it's really, really cool effects, and it actually gives you enough time to like see what's happening, which means that like they're clearly trying to do like the best possible job with these effects. They're not trying to hide anything in that sequence.
Exactly. And it's all shot in bright light. There's nothing in shadow. It's not done outside. It's done in a living room in London, and like, it's awesome. Yeah. Every effect in this movie is pretty much in like daylight for the most part. Well, you know, like all Jack being dead and more dead. And yeah, it's so cool. That's impressive in and of itself.
And I do like the juxtaposition of the music over this transformation scene, because it's very inappropriate.
Yeah.
But it makes it pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the movie. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
Very, very fun, while also retaining the aspects of a horror movie that, really make it a horror movie at heart. And like actually developing a fairly meaningful relationship in like the love interest, even though they've only known each other for 30-ish days.
Yeah.
Or something like that. About 30 something days. So yeah, they do a really good job of developing their relationship quickly and making it meaningful.
Agreed.
Where like there's some movies where it's like you've known this person for like 48 hours tops, and like
they're
you're
married.
already it's like, no, like get out of here.
Yeah. Well, it's there's a phrase or like a term for their situation. It's called the Florence Nightingale effect, where the nurse falls in love with the patient and vice versa. And I think they did a great job building that relationship up, especially the end is heartbreaking, honestly.
Yeah. It's a sad ending.
Yeah. My favorite shot though in this movie is where you see it in the trailer, the guy is running in the subway.
Oh,
and he
I was
trips
hoping
and
this
falls.
was going to be what you were going to talk about, because it's so good.
It's so awesome. He trips and falls on the escalator, and it's that cool shot of just from the top of the escalator, and the escalator's coming up, and you just see the werewolf walk into frame slowly.
Yeah.
And like you're just like, holy shit, that is so cool. And then it just goes to POV and eats that fucker.
Yeah. That's by far one of the coolest shots like in a movie ever. And it's so well done. One, because like the camera angle is awesome and like everything's framed incredibly well, but also if you're not paying attention, you could possibly miss the wolf, which I think is kind of neat. Because it's like basically silent. The guy's just maybe like breathing a little heavy on the escalator, and you just see this like gray mass come out of like the tunnel that's like kind of shrouded by some like signage. And like I believe that the wolf was like a giant puppet.
There's people in it.
Oh, okay. But like,
which is crazy. I'm pretty sure.
It looks
it was a
fantastic.
Suit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like it's like a full scale, wolf puppet monster, thing, and it just comes walking out of the hallway like really slow. But it also that shot is great too because they don't linger on it for too long.
Agreed.
It's just enough time for you to register that this guy's about to get wrecked, and then it cuts straight to him getting wrecked. It's awesome.
Yeah, agreed. So, I found some good like fun stuff on it where it was like there's like I said, a lot of common misconceptions about how the werewolf is done. It was a suit for almost every shot. It was either Kevin Brennan or Brandon Hughes in it. Brendan Hughes. The only other version, it was a duplicate puppet head for close-ups of it snapping at people, or when it bit the inspector's head off. It was used with a scissor style. Like that's how they use the mechanism, which is cool. There's no animatronics. Like it's so cool. My favorite part also, like that's my favorite shot and one of my favorite scenes. But also, like the best scene is in the movie theater, where there's all the dead people from that David's killed as a werewolf, being a werewolf, and they're all suggesting ways for him to kill himself. It's so good. It's so funny. And that's like when you have Jack as like kind of the puppet of the head that's, you know, talking to him and has that optimistic, you know, fun, you know, happy-go-lucky like charm about him, but yet he's dead. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting take on that aspect of the like werewolf kind of legend. Is like I think in your typical like werewolf movie, they don't address anybody that's been killed by the werewolf.
No, I don't think
like
so.
This is kind of like a new bit of like lore added in, that anyone that the werewolf kills ends up as a like basically a ghost. That they keep calling it the undead, I think.
Yeah, limbo. They're in limbo.
Yeah, they're in limbo.
Yeah.
And they say the only way for them to move on is for the werewolf's bloodline to end, which means that the only way, because the werewolf will end up just murdering people, you know, endlessly. So he says, you know, the only way it's gonna end for you in any kind of like good way is for you to kill yourself, which is like a very drastic departure from the typical werewolf movie where it's all about finding a cure
Or silver bullet.
or but like in this it's like, no, there's none of that. There's no cure, no silver bullets. You just gotta die. It's like, again, I think very simple, straightforward, you know, kind of solution, and like adds a little bit more urgency to the situation, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I agree. There's a cool cameo in this. I don't know if you noticed it, but when they're on their way to the hospital, the cab driver's Bricktop from Snatch.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole ending, you know, is chaotic too, and it's so fun leading up to it. And then like you said in the scene where, you know, all the cars are crashing, the inspector gets his head ripped off, and then he gets chased into you know, a alleyway, and it's a dead end. And like I said, it's heartbreaking because what's the girlfriend's name in this? I'm blanking on it. Alex. It's Alex. It's Alex, the nurse. Yeah, excuse me. So Alex is, you know, getting past all the cops, and is like, you know, I love you. And then you see the kind of like eyebrows, kind of, you know, the meanness, the stress level kind of go down.
There's like, a little bit of like recognition for a second. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it, you know, he goes to attack like any werewolf would do. And they shoot him dead. And then it, you know, it's the cool transformation where it's an actual human, and it's David, which throws back to the beginning when, you know, he gets attacked, and David gets attacked, and he looks over to his, you know, left and sees a old dude naked on the ground. He's like, what the hell? I thought that was super cool. So, the ending is heartbreaking, and then it just ends. He gets shot and it just ends.
Yeah.
I laughed pretty hard at that. I thought it was great, but
it starts playing another cover of Blue Moon.
Yeah. They wanted to put all kinds of fun songs in there.
Yeah.
Which I love. But yeah, I mean, this kind of going back to our other podcast and review about the Blues Brothers that John Landis did. Like, rewatching that movie, it made me realize, like, he's actually an awesome director, and it's a great movie. Like, he's a good director and knows what he's doing. And this movie, you know, obviously it was our first time seeing it. Same thing, just awesome director. And, you know, you expect him to be a comedy director, and he knocks it out of the park in this one, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think you can definitely tell he has a love of car crashes.
Yeah.
Between the Blues Brothers and this movie.
Yep.
But yeah,
definitely.
I mean, there's a lot about this movie that's just masterfully done.
Agreed.
Which is like kind of rare in horror. So yeah, it's really cool to see, just how much effort and thought was put into this, because it really shows through.
Yeah, agreed. And you know who took notice of that? Michael Jackson, because he hired John Landis to do the Thriller music video. That's literally like what inspired all of that, which is so cool.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think it's a great movie to watch, especially for Halloween, and when there's full moons. The effects and everything still hold up to this day. It's fun. It's entertaining. I bought it on 4K, and I'm glad I did. It was not expensive. And did you buy it or did you rent it?
I bought it.
You did? Did you buy it at Best Buy?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah, because I looked on Amazon and it was like $60 on Amazon. I'm like, I don't want to pay that. And then I looked on BestBuy.com and it was like $24. And then I went to my local Best Buy and I was like, oh, sweet, they actually have it. Yeah. Which is sad because they don't have a movie section anymore. But and that's another cool thing is getting these movies on hard media and watching them in the best quality you can. Because in 4K, this movie looked great.
Yeah. The 4K was really good. The sound was excellent.
Agreed.
And like even for like an 80s movie, sometimes the sound is not great to begin with. But I mean, this movie was pretty good. Yeah.
I'm glad we watched it, and I'm excited for the rest of our horror movies for this month of October, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well.
Yeah, get ready. It'll get scarier as we go on, so
I hope so.
Buckle up.
Yeah. All right, guys, so thanks for listening. We'll catch you later.